Hello, welcome to CHART's free webinar series. CHART is an association of over 500 trainers for multi-unit hotels and restaurants, where trainers go for professional development and networking. We hold 2 conferences a year, the next being in San Diego on July 15th through 18th, and all the information is on our website at chart.org. Today, we welcome PK Kirwan from Wisetail and Aaron Moran from Union Square Hospitality, presenting on Winning the Talent Wars with Enlightened Hospitality. Welcome, PK and Aaron.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you very much. Great to be here. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. We're going to get into introductions in just a brief minute, but this is a presentation on how to win the talent war with Enlightened Hospitality. Very, very fortunate to be joined by Aaron Moran from Union Square Hospitality Group. Aaron's the Chief Culture Officer over there, and we've been partners for going on a year now. And we'll spend a little bit more time getting to know her and her organization in a moment. But before, really, this presentation could have been actually called How to Win the Talent War for Millennials with Enlightened Hospitality. That's something that, if you're a CHART member or if you're not, that's been a topic that's been of vital importance for all folks in the restaurant and hospitality training world. And it's also something that's on our radar, specifically here at Wisetail as well. As you'll discover, what we've been doing at Wisetail over the past several years, in particular the last years, is doing research and paying attention to the younger side of the workforce, which is millennials. And what we found through our research and our experience is that there are 5 key points to recruiting and retaining your millennial employees. And so that's really what we're going to do today, is when we get into the 5 key points, Aaron will explore how the tenets of Enlightened Hospitality addresses those really intimately. So before we get there, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I do work at Wisetail. I'm the CMO, and Wisetail is a learning management software company. If you look on the right, on the picture there, I'm on the right. That is Truck, one of my colleague bulldogs on the left, and that's just a fun little PPV vehicle from last week when it was sunny in Bozeman. So I do handle marketing, and I've been connected with the CHART organization for about 4 years now. A little bit more on Wisetail. We do have almost 50% of our client base, so that's nearly 60 companies are in the restaurant hospitality world, and so we are very fortunate to work with them on their internal communication, training and learning programs that they deliver through our software. So we're partners in more than just being a technology provider. We do work with the learning and development, instructional design, training and operations. And so much of what we've gleaned about how to win that talent war, in particular with millennials, we've learned through watching our partners excel. And so, we do, we benefit greatly from just having that very unique look into how things are happening on the ground behind the scenes. We're very fortunate for all of our partners. And even though we are outside of the hospitality and restaurant space, we are squarely focused on being a great place to work ourselves, and we've been fortunate enough to be recognized over the past year. We won a couple of awards, which we're really fortunate, and we're doing it all while growing quickly. And so I think that even though we're in a totally different sector, we as a small company have shared some of the same challenges, and it's really led us to examine this deeply. So that's a little on Wisetail, hopefully not too much. Finally, we're nearly 3/4 millennials ourselves, and I think that is it's just led us to explore this very deeply. And so before we get into introducing Aaron and Union Square, I do want to ask a poll. Tara will line this up. Want to get a feeling from the audience. Millennials make up how much of your workforce? So Tara, if you could launch that poll, we'll get some feedback from the audience. Okay. Is any, all right. Tara, can you hear me? Are you going to launch that poll? Looks like. It looks like we may have lost Tara
No,
as the organizer.
okay, I just launched the poll and I just ended it, and you should be able to see the results there. I can tell you the majority said 55% said the majority, 33% said about half, and 12% said a small percentage.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I didn't, the results are coming on my side here, but that really does confirm what we've heard anecdotally. And so that I think that obviously that's the reason why most of you are here, because that's, we're all in the same boat. So it's good to hear. Thanks for that info, Tara. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron in just a minute. A little on the backstory of our connection to Union Square Hospitality Group. Shake Shack has been a client of Wisetail for going on 4 years now, and they were one of our first clients. Their system is called Shack Source, and it's one of the strongest in our client quiver. They were a great client partner of ours, and then through Shake Shack, we were introduced to Union Square and Aaron, and that's how we came to become partners. They are implementing our system right now, and Aaron spoke at our user conference last October. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her to introduce herself and Union Square Hospitality.
Thank you, PK, and hi, everyone. It's really great to have the opportunity to share a little bit more about our perspective and experience. So that is my picture at my happy place. I don't have a cute little dog next to me, but that is me with a glass of wine at the beach, ready for the sunset. So that's my picture because I had to compete with PK's awesome picture. A little bit about my background is I have been the Chief Culture Officer for Union Square Hospitality Group coming up on 4 years now. And ultimately what that means is that I am responsible for the people experience and how our people feel about working for our company. Traditional talent management and HR do report into me, but we are structuring our team in a way that tries to advance our culture and focus on our people's experience. Prior to joining Union Square Hospitality Group, I actually worked for the company that PK mentioned earlier, Great Place to Work. It was the red box logo, and really excited and proud of Wisetail for being recognized as a great place to work. I spent about 10 years with Great Place to Work, having the opportunity to study amazing companies like Wisetail, as an example, to understand their inner workings and what made them tick and work so magically, and how were they able to achieve those extraordinary cultures. And then I was able to translate those insights into supporting a client base to help to get even better, even stronger cultures. And Union Square Hospitality Group was actually one of my clients, going back about 6 or 7 years. And so then made the decision to join and make that my full-time work for USHG exclusively. Next slide, PK. So this is not to toot our own horn here, but just to share a little bit about how we have been recognized. We've not been recognized yet as a great place to work, but someday. But we have been recognized really primarily in terms of the guest experience that we offer for our guests, who are the ones who are the ones that are sharing most about their experiences publicly, and then recognized obviously as the New York Times in terms of our reviews, as well as by the James Beard Foundation. Several of our chefs and programs have been recognized as well. We're really, really proud of these accomplishments and the expectation that people have of what they're going to get when they come into one of our businesses. Next slide, PK. So I'm sure, like everyone on the call, every day we wake up with a set of different challenges that we are faced with. And some of them can be really massive issues, and some of them are more tactical. But probably at the end of the day, the one common theme that faces all of us is the need to find and to retain extraordinary people, because ultimately that is what makes the difference in terms of the offering that we are providing to our guests, to our customers. And finding those amazing people and investing in them and retaining them is probably what keeps us up at night, regardless of the different challenges that we are facing on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of key data points that we started to kind of think about when we were taking a look at our people challenges. Overall, there are about 17.5 million Americans who are unemployed, and about 49% of businesses have challenges filling positions. We are one of them. And relative to the broader workforce, the high potentials are twice as valuable to an organization and 3 times more likely to succeed, but their numbers have actually dropped about 48% in recent years. So that means that not only is there a shortage of talent in general, but there is an even greater shortage of talent, of the really extraordinary top talent, high potentials, if you want to call them, that we are looking for. So that's the challenge with finding great people. When we talk about retaining great people, currently nearly 1 in 3 U.S. employees is seriously considering leaving their organization. And that is up pretty greatly from 23% in recent years. So think about 1 in 3, if you did like a mental scan of your organization, at least 1 in 3 of our employees are considering leaving. So it's hard to find great people, and it's hard to retain great people. Next slide, please. So really what we are faced with is a bit of the perfect storm, and this absolute full-on war for talent. It is the one thing that we are all fighting for in order to be able to find those amazing people. But this isn't the first time that we have experienced a war for talent. It comes in cycles, right? There's points in time in our economy when there are more people that are available given what's going on economically, and there are points in time when there's a shortage. So we see the ebbs and flows in this. Next slide, please. And it used to be the last time that we saw the war for talent, I think it was officially documented in the mid-90s. And kind of the expression was coined, okay, so we're in the war for talent, but at that point in time, the war for talent was really solved for with a somewhat easy solution, which is that big $ that you are seeing in the middle of your screen, because the one way to win the war for talent was to offer more money in terms of salary or perks or benefits to different candidates. And so that's really transactional, obviously. People can feel and touch money. They know what it means, and they know how to offer it. And while not every organization perhaps had the depth of the financial pockets in order to really kind of offer really significant compensation to prospective employees, everyone kind of understood what the rules of the game were and knew that if you dug deep and found more money, you could probably win over that top candidate with an extraordinary financial package. Those times are over because the #1 factor for accepting a job offer is now the, next slide please, the opportunity for people to make things better, to join organizations that are purpose-driven, that have meaning, and where people feel like they're contributing to a broader purpose. And 2/3 of college graduates actually said that they are willing to take a significant pay cut, not just a nominal one, but a significant pay cut to do so. So when you think about it, the war for talent in the mid-90s was transactional. You could essentially throw cash at the problem to solve for it. So now people, the #1 choice that why college graduates are choosing to join an organization or accept a job offer is to have the opportunity to make things better. And you can't touch that. You can't feel it. You can't really even add it up. So it's much, much more nebulous, and I think makes our our jobs so much harder, because ultimately that is how we are able to win the war for talent, is by having a purpose-driven organization with really strong values that allows this millennial generation to really have a significant impact in the world and make things better. PK, I'll hand it back over to you to do the next poll.
Excellent. So before we move on and learn a little bit more about Erin's take on the millennial generation, we want to get some feedback from the group, and we want to know what the #1 reason people accept jobs with your organization. And we've picked some options here. First is pay. Are they aligned with your company goals? Is it the opportunity for growth? Is it the type of work that you're offering, or does it fall into another category? So if Tara's launched that, we can get some results. I'm still not seeing the results on my side, a little operator error, so I apologize for that.
PK, I have launched it, and the answers are coming in right now. I will read them to you in a few seconds as soon as we get enough in.
Excellent. We'll give this a little time to marinate, and then Tara will read the results here.
Okay. It looks like that has enough have come in. And if you can't see the results, I think the attendees can. It says pay 15%, align with company goals 8%, growth opportunities 48%, type of work 18%, other 10%. Interesting. I think that's the most coming out of C. That's really, first of all, thanks everyone for sharing, and I think that we'll address both of those in just a minute. I'm going to turn it back over to Erin with the next slide. Thanks for answering that.
Sure. Would it surprise you to learn, this statistic actually really surprised me, that half of the world's population is under the age of 25, which for me was a little bit of a frightening statistic to learn. Not because I don't fully embrace the millennial generation, but because it's pretty staggering that half of the world's population is under the age of 25. And this is the first time in global history that it's ever skewed this way. And it's been driven by the fact that there's been an explosive global population growth. And so that's what's driving recently, and that's what's driving that number to skew so heavily to under the age of 25. But it is a generation to be a force to be reckoned with, really, not just in terms of the size, but in terms of their economic impact. So not only is this the generation that we need to be targeting in terms of Gen Next for all of our businesses, but it's also a generation that has an extraordinarily strong purchasing power. So a couple of statistics here that we wanted to point out. The first is that 84% of millennials seek purposeful work. So that was connected to the statistics that we were sharing earlier about millennials choosing companies or accepting job offers because of that purpose-driven work. By the year 2025, here in the U.S., 75% of the workforce will actually be the millennial generation. And we are not that far away from 2025, although it does sound very futuristic. And 53% of internet shoppers are more likely to purchase brands with a social purpose. And you can see very similar statistics across all different types of purchasing channels, knowing that consumers are voting with their wallets for purpose-driven organizations. So we just thought that would be helpful in terms of some additional statistics about this millennial generation to offer you guys. PK, next slide, please. So at Union Square Hospitality Group, we are facing all of the same types of challenges and issues, wanting to find the very best talent, wanting to invest in their growth and development, wanting to retain them. And by no means do we have the solution. We do have, however, a couple of philosophies that we wanted to share with you. And hopefully you can find some insight and some support in this, but know that we are on our journey ourselves and figuring it out as we go along. But these are some things that have really worked for us. And this first one is the virtuous cycle of enlightened hospitality. We believe, and our founder and CEO, Danny Meyer, when he started the company with the very first restaurant, Union Square Cafe, about 32 years ago, he fundamentally believed that in order to be able to deliver those positive and uplifting, special, memorable moments of hospitality to our guests, the best way to be able to do that was to first focus on taking care of each other. And at that point in time, that philosophy was pretty revolutionary because many businesses were run with the mantra, the perspective, the customer is always right, or the need to maximize shareholder value in terms of capitalism economics. And he said, actually, I think the best way in order for us to be able to take extraordinary care of our guests is to first take care of each other. And so he prioritized our first tenet of enlightened hospitality as taking care of each other. And that's really all about what it feels like to work at USHG or our culture. When we are taking great care of each other, when we are living our values, we are able to take better care of our guests. When we're able to take better care of our guests, then we are able to take better care of our communities. When we're able to take better care of our communities, we're able to take even better care of our suppliers. Our volumes for purchasing are going up, so we're taking better care of them. And ultimately, if we're doing all of this incredibly well, we are taking even better care of our investors because we are running profitable businesses. And we want to plow back those profits into taking even better care of our people. And so ultimately what we are saying is that it's a false choice to believe that you have to choose either to invest in your people or to run a profitable business. We believe that by taking great care of our people, that we will be able to run better businesses. And this is how we approach attracting the millennial generation, because we are focused on our recruiting messages about our philosophies and our purpose. And our prospective employees, our recruits, they know that we are a mission-driven organization that is committed to making sure that we are honoring our values and to powering this virtuous cycle. And that is really helpful in terms of our recruiting message and attracting this generation who are seeking purpose-driven work. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
I think it's back over to you, PK.
Yeah, you bet. So one thing that led to this presentation is that knowing the tenets of the Enlightened Hospitality and then also the research that we put together, they meld so closely, and that the tenets of Enlightened Hospitality really do address many of the key points that we've identified. And so we have 5 key points that millennials are looking at when they're looking at either staying at or joining a new company. They're all based on statistics. We're going to cite some of those. So this first one is that 71% of millennials say they'd stay longer than a year at a company that they know believes in something. And this leads right into the first key point when winning the talent war. And that is you and your employees need to have shared values. And the key there is that they need to know what they are, and they need to know that they're shared, because millennials, their work is so closely tied with what they believe in and their personal purpose. And so that's the first key point, and I'm going to turn it back over to Aaron to talk about how their work at USHG addresses that. I think, Aaron, are you there?
Oh, here I am, sorry. So if you think back to the virtuous cycle of enlightened hospitality that I was just describing, and that very first bubble, taking care of each other, we realized that we had to very clearly describe how we want to take care of each other, and to name that culture is a shared commitment. Because Danny did write Setting the Table and our philosophies about how we how we treat our employees and our guests are very well known through the stories and setting the table, that we actually found that sometimes when people would join our organization, they had this expectation that a beautiful and benevolent culture would happen to them, and they didn't realize that culture is a shared commitment and that each one of us needs to play an active role in positively advancing our culture. And so we went through a process to define what we stood for and what we expected of our people. And so we, out of all of the values that are incredibly important to us at USHG, we named 4 as being the most important and the things that are absolute non-negotiables in our day-to-day interactions with one another. And the first is integrity, doing the right thing always, using sound judgment, and even when no one is looking. The second is excellence, doing what needs to be done as well as it can possibly be done. The third, entrepreneurial spirit, seeing opportunities others haven't and creating solutions others wish they'd thought of first. And hospitality, doing all that can be done for others and more than is expected in thoughtful ways that let people know that you are on their side. Now, all 4 of those sometimes can be seen to be a little bit in tension. An example being excellence is a little bit in contrast with entrepreneurial spirit, because excellence, we're asking people to continue to do to deliver their personal best, with entrepreneurial spirit asking people to innovate and to take risks. So those two can sometimes be in tension, but that's why we include the value of integrity, because that's having the judgment to do the right thing, knowing when to apply that excellence reflex and to do something that is your personal best versus seeing an opportunity and innovating. And each one of these 4 family values has 3 behavioral expectations embedded in them in order to clarify what we expect of all USHG colleagues and what people should expect of the overall culture. And so we use our family values pretty significantly in our hiring process, because this is how we are choosing who's a good culture fit, who we want to invite onto the team. It's also the framework for how we evaluate our leaders for how consistently they are living these values. And so promotion decisions are being made based on these family values as well. And then most importantly for us, when we are faced with a tough decision, as leaders, we look to the family values to help to guide our tough choices and make sure that in those tough calls that we are honoring our family values. So it's really important to us that these aren't just words that we stick on a page or hang on the wall on a poster, or that we pass out collateral and just, that they are quote unquote corporate values. What's most important to us is that we are walking the talk and using these values and living them on a daily basis. And that's what we talk to our recruits about in the recruiting process, because we want people to understand what we stand for. Hopefully that attracts them to this organization. But if it doesn't, we also want to be able to screen out candidates that really aren't interested in what we expect of contributors to our culture and our company. PK, over to you.
Excellent. So the next really set of research is all around professional development, and nearly 90% of millennials say development is important in a job, in looking for a job, and 65% said personal development opportunities were the most influential factor in their current job. So this leads us right into the second key point, and that's providing a clear path to professional growth. And I think that the two main pieces here are, one, it needs to be clear. It needs to be something that even in the recruiting process, you're showing potential candidates how they can grow, not only that there is growth, but how to do it. And another thing that we've learned about millennials is that that there's some urgency to do everything quickly. So beginning this communication through the recruiting process is essential. Erin, back over to you.
Sure. So to PK's point about doing things quickly, one of the things that we have adopted, we've called them micro promotions, but what we have introduced is that for each position in our restaurant, there are 3 levels that are available, level 100, level 200, level 300, and we have explained to people what skills, knowledge, and competencies are required for each level, and how and what resources are available to them in order to advance, so that people feel that there is still growth, even if they are a server, as an example, that there's still growth because they'll start out at a 100 level and then have the opportunity to advance. So creating clear and transparent career paths has been our focus for the past couple of years. So not only including those expectations, but also the training to support people to advance themselves. But what we have asked people to do is to be responsible for their own career growth. But we'll provide the tools and the explanation of what is possible. But ultimately, it is on you as an individual to lead your own growth, to see what's possible, and to share with us what you want to be doing and to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And so promotions occur when an individual raises their hand to ask to be promoted or to level up. Our managers aren't kind of necessarily making that decision to say, oh, I think you might be ready. We want it to be self-initiated, which has been really important. And then with respect to what you're seeing on the screen here, we've also found that storytelling is vitally important, or communicating the different ways that people have grown within our company. Because although we have clarified and codified what career growth and career pathing can look like, we aren't mandating it. So if you want to kind of jump across different businesses or opportunities, or explore a non-traditional growth path, we absolutely want to support our people in doing that. So we use storytelling as a way to help to inspire people for what could be possible if they are considering their own growth options within USHG. PK.
Wonderful. Excellent. So the next point is when we look at the statistics, only 40% of millennials are happy with the recognition they're getting in their jobs, and 39% don't get any recognition at all. And so once you have them in your organization or also in the recruiting process, it's important to recognize hard work when you see it. And that's how we phrase, it here for key point number 3. And this is something that we decided to show you something from Wisetail as a means to do this. I think the most important point here is that the recognition, whether it's either peer-to-peer or top-down programs, they need to be institutionalized. And so this is by no means the best way to do it, but I just want to show you a program that we have here at Wisetail, which is essentially laid a foundation and framework for peer-to-peer recognition. We did brand it. We call it the Weisberg program, and this was the graphic that we created when we released it. It was essentially a way for us to support a peer-to-peer recognition program. And so how it works is you can see these postcards here, so it is physical. We do have programs that are represented in our software that we do use, but this is an actual physical program. What a Weisberg really means is when, someone who's gone above and beyond either in their job or looked out for you, and it's a way to recognize that moment. And so each quarter, each person gets 4 cards and 4 tokens that are worth about $25 at local businesses around Bozeman. And if someone does something that you want to recognize, you write them a note and give them a token. And this is what it looks like more close up. So really what we wanted it to be was fun. We did want it to have some value in terms of, this is something where we are investing in one team member recognizing another. This is also how we do top-down recognition. But also one of the most important pieces is the back of the card, where it's an articulation. And so even though it is just a postcard, it doesn't need to be long. It is, clearly identifying, what someone did well. And the point here again isn't to do it like we're doing it, but if you need to institutionalize and put a framework to recognition programs, because it is important for that millennial team member to be recognized and to have it be in a way that's consistent across the organization. So with that, I want to go into our third and final poll, and just want to ask the question to the audience: how important are recognition programs in your organization? And we'll go ahead and we'll see these come up, and we'll get feedback from the group.
Okay, that is launched, and we have about 3% people voted right now.
Okay, great. We'll give it a couple seconds. We have 2 more key points to work through, but I really am interested on, from the audience. It looks like we have over 70 folks joining us. Just if recognition programs are important in your organization.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll now.
Okay.
And share the results. And it is, they're a game changer, 30%, middle of the road, 21%, lower down the list, 36%, and 13%.
Thank you, Jared, for reading that out loud. That's very satisfying. So it looks like we're all across the board. I think that, that's just food for thought to see where it fits into your overall program, but it is a priority for that millennial workforce. And so with that, we'll move on to point number 4. I think all the statistics come together really to support this point. But transparency and developing trust is key, and that does happen beginning in the recruiting period, where you're showcasing, all the different components of your company. But this is a key piece that the millennial workforce are looking for. Not only that there is a culture of trust, but that it's transparent and they understand what where you shake out. So that's key point number 4, and I'll turn it back over to Erin to talk about how they address it.
Sure. So as many of you may know, we launched an initiative called Hospitality Included a few years back, which is our goal of eliminating tipping in all of our restaurants. And this has represented an enormous challenge for us to shift pretty much everything about how we run our restaurants. And ultimately, we did this in order to create more parity between our kitchen colleagues and our dining room colleagues, and to have all-inclusive menu pricing for our guests. But because this was a massive endeavor, we learned a lot about the importance of trust and a lot about the importance of two-way communication. So lots was written about us in terms of keeping on the path to continue to eliminate tipping in our businesses, while other restaurants had tried and kind of walked back from it. And lots of writers or reporters had said that, well, it's because people trust USHG, trust Danny Meyer, and that is likely what has allowed us to be successful with the elimination of tipping. And yes, that is certainly part of it, and we're really, really proud to be trusted by our people and by our guests. But trust is not something that you can take for granted. At least that's what we believe. So while we knew that we had a reservoir of trust going into this, we wanted to make sure that we were using this as an opportunity to fill up this reservoir, to have even more trust. And so we talked to our leaders that were going through this process and shared with them that every interaction with our employees and with our guests is an opportunity to either build or to break trust. And trust is really important, but also incredibly fragile. And it can take lots of interactions to build up trust, but it only really takes one to erode it all. And so we had that conversation over and over again with our leaders and with our managers to acknowledge the importance of trust And then with respect to two-way communication, we used that as the primary tactic to focus on trust-building activities, making sure that even though we were going through this massive amount of change, that we weren't shying away from those tough conversations, but we were leaning right into them and connecting with people. And those people were either our frontline employees or with our guests who didn't want the change that was coming. But using that as an opportunity to hear and address what their concerns, their questions were, and ensuring that we were focused on sticking with the two-way communication as a way to improve the levels of trust. PK, over to you.
Excellent. You bet. So we're in the final stretch here. The fifth point is maybe it's something that is even taken for granted, but all the research has showed that for the millennial workforce, creating a fun place to work is important. And I don't have any graphics, and I'm not going to cite any examples here, except for that we do know through all our work with our clients and even our own company that in the hospitality business, there is a camaraderie among coworkers and peers. And so we've also seen that, you know, a lot of the chart members and clients that we've interacted with do have fun in their work. So I think that that's more just a recognition that it's not a throwaway point, and it's different for each company, but it is something that is, you know, important. And with all the ways to communicate socially and all the different platforms out there, the identity of working at a place that is fun is something that carries on beyond just when a shift is over, a day is over. That's something that can carry on through social media or other ways that the younger workforce is communicating. And so something to keep in mind. I know it's individual for each company, so we didn't cite any examples there. So that does conclude the 5 different points that we've put together. And what we'd like to do is open it up to questions. Got a picture of a cute dog to really get your juices flowing and goodwill. We can put those questions into the, into the little question module there, and then they can be for Aaron or myself. But we really appreciate your time, and we're open for questions from anyone in the audience.
Okay, PK, I don't know if you can see the questions in the question box, so I will start with some of them here. One of the questions was, what is the source of the data for your on millennials?
You know, that's a good question. We have we really collected it from many different sources. We're going to share the piece of content, which does have all the research out when we have the attendee list. So we're going to send that out to everyone who attended. It comes from a variety of different sources that we've just put together, anywhere from, you know, academic studies to LMS and e-learning and analyst research. So anyone that attends this webinar, we're going to send out a piece that you can download, that you can find all the different references, and we'll shoot that out early next week after Tara gets us the registrants, either tomorrow or Friday.
Okay, the next one is, what are the best ways to recruit millennials? Where do they go to look for jobs?
Good question. Aaron, do you want to take that one?
I don't know that there is a best way, but what we have, and there's certainly tons and tons of different apps and sites that are working hard to attract this generation. What we have found to be the, when you're applying for a position, it could say, how did you find out about us? Of course, we ask that question, and the overwhelming majority is through an employee referral. So we're obviously excited about that because it means that people are recommending us to their friends, and we've been trying to invest in an employee referral program, recognizing that we're spending so much money posting through all of these different websites, and yet we're not seeing that level of yield. So we're trying to invest in employee referral programs. We're also, interestingly, when we are going through the interview process and we're asking other people about how did you even hear about us, lots of people are saying on social media, but not necessarily through our meaning USHG kind of officially sanctioned social media posts, but from other people describing their experiences either as a guest or as an employee, which was really interesting to us as well.
Okay, the next question is, what are some other employee recognition programs that appeal to millennials?
Aaron, do you want to take that one, or? I can pull from an example from our client base that we're seeing some success with. Actually, just right from the Shake Shack world, is that there is an awards and badging functionality within our software, and so that is basically recognition for different different achievements or different levels within the software itself. And so this was an innovative idea from Shake Shack. They actually took those virtual badges and made physical badges, and those are something that they launched earlier this year, and they're actually something that are given out to employees, and those are actually sewn on the hats. And so that was a pretty neat example of activities that are happening in the software, so training and communication, that are not only happening virtually, recognized virtually in the community, but then taken out and paired with an offline experience, that live experience of having that recognition. So that would be a merit-based recognition program that we've seen. Another piece that we're seeing is just a recognition message that happens within our software. So those are two examples that we've seen sort of on the LMS side of things, and Aaron can probably name one more from their world.
Well, we have one. It's not just for millennials, but it's for anyone in our company. A program called Caught Doing Right, and it is an opportunity for anyone to recognize anyone else for something that exemplifies our family values. And we try to jot those down. We have little stickies, so you can write to, from. It's super old school. It's not very tech savvy. So it's just a Post-it note, essentially, that you can hand to that person, and then we compile them and put them on our walls for our staff to be able to see, and then we read them out loud, part of the storytelling, at our lineups or pre-shift huddles. So we want to make sure that we are reinforcing the types of behaviors that we want to see, but we don't think that just has to be from manager to frontline team member. We want that to be peer to peer, anyone that they want to recognize. We don't yet have anything that goes along with it that's of monetary value. Right now, it's just a feel-good kind of thing.
Okay, one last question I have here, which is very related to that, Aaron. This one specifically relates to what kind of activities you engage in to create a fun workplace environment, I guess, as opposed to the recognition piece.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that we have any one particular program that is focused on creating fun. I think our predominant belief is that fun is an output of doing all of the other things that we're focused on for our culture properly. So if we are truly taking care of each other in a thoughtful way, if we are living our family values really consistently, then the output of that will be that we will have more fun coming to work. People will be looking more forward to coming to work and feeling like the environment is more fun. If we are truly walking the talk when it comes to our family values. But we don't have any specific programs that we've put in place that are focused only on kind of exclusively on creating fun.
I can share an example from one of our clients. There is typically there are often seasonal or philanthropic events that are across the organization, and so we have seen some companies encourage user contributed videos where they're essentially employees dancing or celebrating or some sort of a flash mob type situation that's an organization, but that is a representation of a bigger purpose. But while they're at work in uniform, capturing a video of people dancing or having fun. So that would be, an example that we've seen in the hospitality world of, an encouragement of fun for a purpose that's really, supported by the company structure and recognized as an important piece.
Okay, there are two new questions that just came in. One is, that's a very cute puppy. Has having an environment that allows dogs been a draw to recruiting millennials?
I would say absolutely. I think that we have a different scenario in terms of, what constitutes a safe and healthy workplace. Since we're not preparing food, I understand that. But I think that, having an environment that is flexible for us as a 45-person company in Bozeman, it does help us recruit and retain really everyone, not just millennials, but in particular, it just shows our value. So I think, yes, that's not why I put the picture of the puppy up there, but that is true for us.
We have at USHG, we have not launched this yet, but we've been looking at our overall benefits program to see if we can move towards a more a la carte approach, meaning that you pick the benefits for the time in the life when you need those particular benefits. And so we've looked into pet daycare and pet insurance. We've also looked at child care and backup child care. And then we've also looked at support with aging parents and what resources are available to kind of hit all of the generations that are working for us, but we haven't pulled the trigger on it. But it is something that we're thinking about in terms of what home life looks for different generations at USHG.
Okay, and now, other than a shout out to Bozeman, Montana, the real last question we have here. How have you broken down the divide between the corporate executive side versus the field, aka made sure that things are being understood by team members?
We're still working on it, I would say. We try to, well, first of all, I think what will help us is the implementation of Wisetail for all of our hourly employees. Our first launch is with managers, but when we are fully leveraging that system, we hope to have the same type of success that Shake Shack has had in rolling it out, because that takes all of the corporate messages, if you will, or corporate initiatives, and gets them into digestible formats for hourly employees to consume that are not only investments in their growth and development, but also in creating a sense of community. Right now, we are still doing kind of old school, showing up at lineups, at family meals, and being available for people when they have questions. And sometimes we're just listening. We're not even sharing something, but sometimes we are going there saying, "Hey, this is new. It's coming down the pike." But we're careful about which time, when we are in the restaurants delivering those messages versus when we want our leaders to be delivering those types of messages. But it's still, the quote unquote divide still does exist a little bit for us.
Okay, I think we're coming up on an hour and I should probably end it here. Erin and PK, thank you so much for participating in our webinar today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah.
We'll be following up with this deck, and really appreciate all of your time. Erin, thank you so much for dialing in. We really appreciate that here at Wisetail that you joined us.
Thank you, everyone.